So if you have a property that makes money, how much money does it need to make in order for that to be a deal, right? So if you've been following me, you know I buy for cash flow all the time. But in this video, I want to talk about how much cash flow is actually needed, right? Because all cash flow isn't created equal. So if you have a property, it really depends on how you're going to buy that property to determine how much cash flow you need. If you're buying it, you see a property, you want to buy a multifamily property, you say, all right, looking at your own finances, if you're going to buy the property yourself, then you have autonomy over how much cash flow it needs. You may say, I just like this property, I don't really care, it makes $100 a month, that's enough for me, and you want it, you buy it, you can do it. But if you invest the way we invest, we use other people's capital as well. And so how much money does any investor, or how much money does a deal have to make to give investors in order to make it worthwhile? For us, we try to beat the stock market at all times, and we also try to make something that's decent, right? So that window of where we can attract investor interest is going to be 6 to 8%, right? You want to look at a deal that, based off the money you have to put into it, you can get 6 to 8% on that money on a regular basis. Now, obviously, you want to try to make as much as possible. If you can find a deal that makes you 10%, 12%, that's great. But you also have to be a realistic investor too. So if numbers show up on a property and it looks like, hey, this is a great deal, it's too good to be true, we do a lot of investigating about that, because why would you sell this property in this market for such a low price when it makes that much money? Usually what we found out, here's just a quick tip, it's usually a problem property, or it's a property that's being managed by an owner who's just not running the property the way we would. For instance, you have owners who manage the property themselves. We're not in this business to go ahead and be property managers. We hire that part out, right? So that can keep your expenses artificially low. You can also have some owners that do everything. They cut the grass. They live on the property. They just do all this work, right? And so when you look at their numbers, it's a home run deal, and yeah, they're making so much money, but that owner's life is now joined with that property, and I don't want to do that, and you don't want to do that. So you have to go into and sort of correct those numbers and make the adjustments to say how I would operate the property, which is going to have a property manager, and it's going to have somebody doing the lawn maintenance, etc. So those numbers aren't necessarily the same. So to get back into it, we would normalize those expenses and say, all right, this is how we would operate it. And usually that's going to fall somewhere within that 6 to 8% range, if not lower. So if you get a property within that range, you say, all right, this is something that's worth pursuing it. You can attract investors to that, not just off of the 6 to 8% though. I mean, that's okay. But the real value comes in taking that 6 to 8% and growing it year over year. So we'll try to start out at 6 to 8%, but then we're going to look for deals where you could go out and add value to the property, increase the income, reduce the expenses to try to get those numbers up. And that's what I would encourage you to do the same way. So if you're looking at a property and you run out your numbers and say, okay, if I have to put in, call it $100,000 to buy this property, I want to make sure that I can at least get $6,000 to $8,000 in revenue from that property in order to meet my investment return. So hopefully that makes sense to you. You found that helpful when you're going out here looking at deals. Try to make sure you get to those metrics so you can, if you're buying it by yourself, take care of your own capital. And if you're buying it with investors, you can make sure that you've got something attractive for their capital. All right, I'm done. Hopefully you found this helpful. If so, drop a comment. Let me know your thoughts about it, and I will see you in the future.